Fellowship among the epitaphs. From a respectful distance they watched as mourners dropped one white rose after another into the grave. The others were excited, but Gade was overcome with indifference. No new coffin or freshly dug resting place could make him happy anymore. Those things offered nothing but a reminder of their confinement during daylight hours. When the new dead was covered in soil, the others ran to dance on his grave. Gay looked around the cemetery as those who'd come to pay respects to the long dead noticed the lowering sun. It was already late in the evening, but the summer had stretched day hours into official night. Gay prepared himself for inspection. He and the others, 14 in total, gathered around the grave of Sir Whitcomb Mahoney. The inspector arrived, with flamethrower out and ready to use if needed. Hands and teeth, the inspector said. Show 'em. The 14 did as they were told. They held out their hands and opened their mouths wide. The inspector used a tiny flashlight on her wrist to check the nails for blood and flesh. She examined their teeth for the same. When the inspector grabbed Gade by the face, he gave her a low growl. The inspector was not afraid. She pinched his cheek and patted his head. Maybe someone else, kiddo, she said, but not me. Gade was last, and the countdown was on. The minutes and seconds dragged by as he and the others waited for the sun to be gone. The inspector waited at the gate. Once darkness had overtaken the sky and moonlight lit their faces, the 14 were free to go out. The others ran and disappeared into the night. Gade walked slowly to the graveyard's edge and stood there, with his toes touching freedom. Quit moping, kid, the inspector said. Things could be worse. Gade turned his nose up at her. Worse in what way? You could be dead. I'd rather be dead, but I don't have that option anymore, do I? The inspector lit a cigarette and flicked ashes at Gade. Make the most of what you have. That's all any of us can do. Gade went for a walk. He had nowhere to go and nothing to see. The cemetery that he was confined to was miles away from his former home. His family didn't want to see him. No one from his human days had love left for him. Gade covered the whole city before the sky lightened. He ran back to the cemetery and did a head count. Julep was missing. Where's Juju? Gade asked. Where is she? The inspector pulled up in her loud, clanky truck, flamethrower in hand. She noticed the missing body immediately. The sun's not up yet, Gade said. Give her a few minutes. A police wagon pulled up and parked behind the inspector's truck. The officers got out and drew their guns. Banging and thumping from the wagon stirred up the 12. Gade was unmoved. He had an idea of what horrible things had happened and would happen. The officers opened the wagon, and out jumped a blood-covered Julep with chunks of human meat and hair falling from her mouth. She was a feral mess, snarling, growling, and unaware that her end was near. Gay turned away. He put distance between himself and the grisly scene. He could only speculate about why Julep had given in to her urges. The 14 craved human, but not the way a starving man craves a meal. They craved human the way a chain smoker yearns for nicotine. The 14 did not need food, or water, or air. They existed beneath the living and above the dead. Fire in the hole, the inspector yelled. The screaming went on far too long. Gage tried to cover his ears, but the sound of Julep's agonizing death could not be muffled. The others gathered around Gade once nothing of Julep was left but a pile of ash for the wind to take. For 20 nights after, Gade didn't leave the cemetery. The outside had nothing for him. Temporary freedom was not enough. Their situation was no different, to him, than dogs being allowed out in the yard to play. The inspector came as always. She watched the others leave to enjoy the sights and sounds of the night. Gage stayed by the open gate. Moping still, the inspector said. Gade wished for her to go far away and return never. What do you want? Kill me, Gade said. I'm done with this. The inspector pointed the end of her flamethrower at his face. No. Why not? Because who'll keep these kids in mind when I'm not around? You may not need sleep, but I do. You never noticed how they look at you? You're their leader, whether you want to be or not. Gade walked the winding path from the gate to the grave of Whitcomb Mahoney. He read the epitaph for only the second time ever. It read, "Here lies no one, for the person is not the body, but the spirit." Gade sat on the ground and leaned against the headstone. He stayed there with his eyes closed until dawn. When his eyes opened, 12 were around him, and he finally saw it. The admiration and adoration that they had for him had gone too long ignored. Spike, the youngest, around age 8, sat beside Gabe. "You should come with us tonight." Gabe patted Spike on the head. "I think I will." Did you enjoy the story, Fellowship Among the Epitaphs? I hope so. There are more to come.